You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Hey everyone, thanks again for hitting that play button. It's Tuesday, July the 14th. I might actually put this episode up a little early just to say as a thank you for subscribing. And again, if you're listening to this and you haven't subscribed yet, this podcast is on Stitcher, it's on Podbean, it's on iTunes. It really helps support the podcast the more subscribers I have. So again, all those links are right in the show notes. And if you still need it, if there's on my website, and I also tweet about it a lot. So again, just subscribing and rating, especially on iTunes, really helps out. But this is the part 2 of Marc v. Price's interview. This is going to be podcast episode 62. And, Marc and I now, we're going to talk about building teams, some of the things and pitfalls and obstacles that he faced. And this pretty much finishes our interview. Marc is a great guy, and I really recommend you check out his stuff. Again, all that stuff's in the show notes. And if you really want to support the podcast, again, there's a ton of show notes at the bottom about, there's buying through my Amazon affiliate program, or maybe just buying a product through one of the other links to the affiliate programs. And if you're feeling especially giving, there's even an Amazon wish list. But again, don't feel obligated. And I want to say thank you very much for listening. It really means a lot. And again, if you ever want to reach out to me, it's davebullis.com. There's a contact form on that, or you can reach me at Twitter at davebullis. At Dave_Bullis. Maybe I should worry about getting that right. And again, thank you very much. And it's episode 62, part 2 with Marc v. Price.
You're listening to the Dave Bullis Podcast.
Thing is, I think finding the right people, like find the right actors, because I go out of my way to not employ dickheads. You know what I mean? I'm just like, you're a dickhead, you're not doing it. And it doesn't matter how good an actor you are, you're not going to do it because you're a dickhead. And there's, I'll find someone who isn't a dickhead and they can do it, because there's always going to be someone who can do it who is a nice person. You don't need to torture yourself. I know a lot of filmmakers who cast not even that good actors who are a pain in the ass. And I'm like, well, why? They weren't very good and they weren't very nice. Like, at least if they were very good but not very nice, I could sort of understand where you were coming from. But not very nice people generally don't take direction very well. So if you can't communicate with someone, there's absolutely no point. And I'm not beyond, I've done films with people who have not really done the greatest of jobs when it comes to their performance. And I have no problem looking at someone who's in the background doing a better job, saying, I like what you're doing there. We're going to bring your character to the foreground of this story, and you'll start taking all the baggage from this character, and you're going to carry this story now. That's happened on films I've done. It's happened with people who were just extras in Colin, who ended up being main characters in Magpie. So there's a lot of... I think you get better at it, or you at least start to understand what it is that you like about the actors you cast. And that's what I try to do. I try to look at what I like in people. I tend to meet people. I don't audition people very often. I tend to... there was an actress that was put onto me by a friend recently, and she was a model and she wants to get into acting. And so my friend sort of suggested that we say hello. So we just went and had a drink and got chatting, and we really, really got along. And immediately I was like, right, I need to shoot some pickups for this BBC show. Do you want to come along and do that? So she came along and did that, and she was fantastic. She's a really great actress. So there's stuff like that. That's kind of how I've found lots of actors as I've gone along. I've just sort of like met them and I talk to them and I find out what, find out what sort of relationship I can have with them. and I find there's less bullshit than you get in an audition, because in an audition you get all sorts of bullshit. Oh, I love the script, it's a great script. Do you really, or is that just a thing you have to say? Like, I understand, what else are you going to say? But at the same time, you're like, someone's giving you a performance, you're like, okay, that's great, thank you very much. It's like, no, it wasn't very good, you're not the person who's going to get the job. It's just so much bullshit that goes both ways, and I can't get any sense of a working relationship with someone, because they're actors, it's their job to give off the impression that there's someone you can work with. So I'm not even speaking to a person there, I'm speaking to an act the second they come into the room and sit down and audition. And it's just, and no matter what you do to try and break away from that, it's a very difficult process. So I always enjoy talking to people and having a relationship with people. And I mean, there are people who have approached me on Facebook or on Twitter who I've been like, okay, you start chatting to them, you engage with them, and you're like, hey, actually, you seem all right. We're doing a thing down here. Why don't you come and get involved? And they're generally only going to have a small part in that. But if they turn out to be great, then they're in the next project and the one after that. And then we've got a working relationship now. And then, does that make sense? I mean, that's a way I've worked, because I've had the luxury of being able to work that way. I know it can't be like that all the time. But so far, it's really paid off, and now my network of actors is quite vast. So, I've always got people who can do this or that and the other, and they're all getting really decent parts in things now. So, before long, those guys are going to be the reason I get films financed. I did a follow-up to Colin. It wasn't a horror film. This has been a little bit more difficult to distribute, but I think it's been released in the US, and it's getting a release in the UK. It's called Magpie, which is about a negligent dad who steals his son's coffin and sort of hits the road. And there's no monsters in it, but it's it's a kind of a nice little character piece that's not as grim as it sounds, but it's not funny either. And so it's a nice little character piece, and like some of the actors in that are doing really well at the moment. So it's I don't know. I kind of that there's a lovely sort of relationship that's built through working with people in a certain way, where I know that if I wanted those guys to do anything for me, they would. If I was like, oh, I've got another film, I've written this, I've written a part for you, do you want to do it? I know that they'd say yes, if their schedule's allowed. It's a very fortunate place to be, and I think that only comes from being really pleasant with the people you work with, if that makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, look at me. I was the one who found, we started talking on Twitter.
Exactly. That's exactly how this happened, right? It's like, oh, yeah, you seem like a nice guy. Count me in, buddy. Here's my email address.
Because when I heard about Colin, it was 2009 or 10, and then I think I got Twitter soon after that, and I think I found you maybe in 2011, 2012. I followed you on Twitter, and it wasn't until last year I started this whole podcast thing, and now it's sort of taken on this life of its own. Funny enough, and I've gotten a lot of very, very cool perks from doing this podcast that I'd never even thought about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like I became like Final Draft, the screenwriting software. Like I've become like one of their beta testers because of this podcast. And I get like the advanced versions. I can give them feedback of what filmmakers actually want to see. And I'm like, look, I got a podcast, so I'm talking to them, and I'm a filmmaker myself. So this is like straight from the horse's mouth. So it's like, cool stuff like that. But I agree with you completely, man. There have been, times just to take a step back when you were talking about that email you got, where I've had, actors say things to me during an audition too, or what have you. And I'm like, why you just killed yourself completely. Like I think I had a girl one time tell me, oh, every time that I get casted, I end up injuring myself or something bad happens and blah, 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 this and that. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not hiring this girl.
This klutz.
Exactly. Are you
the part, they just break their arm as they're leaving. It's like, okay.
I was like, is she gonna just trip over a cord and go head her into a light stand and
Inspector Clouseau. but like, yeah, it is. It's an interesting. I mean, like, I'm not much of a grudge holder really, and no one. I got to be honest, I've been quite lucky. No one's done anything really, really bad that I'm like, I will never work with you again. I don't think it's happened. So, like, I think even in even in the case of this guy, it's like he's still a fucking cool guy and a really good actor. And he's like, yeah, okay, if something comes along, I'd love to stick him in something else. It just seemed a little counterproductive to send like a really angry email to someone. Like, you were calling you something. He wasn't that bad. He didn't call me names or anything, but like the vitriol was palpable. But yeah, it's this. Yeah, who knows?
In Philadelphia, I have my ever-growing do not work list. Unfortunately, I've had when I started in 2008 to 2011, I was actually like a machine. Like I would go on to other people's sets. I'd go do this. I'd go do that. I'd say, what do you need me to do? Do you need me to be in front of camera and back camera? I mean, I worked everything, Mark, from like a student film to working with NFL films to working with like I was on the set of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Friday Night Lights, Transformers 2, blah blah blah, all these other stuff. So I was like just going back and forth. Like one day I would be on a set where the budget's like 80 mil, the next day it's $80 or maybe even nothing. You know what I mean? Where there's not even a food set, there's no like catering, there's nothing. It's like it's like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Bring your own stuff. But after 2011, I got a job and like a full-time job, and like I still do work in the film industry, but like I've slowed down immensely. And but during that time, like I'm still like I've been getting the itch now. I want to start filming stuff because I've been a part of projects, and they just disintegrate, like other people's stuff. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah,
I might have done that 3 times by now on this podcast, but I've already started something and I'm like, what the fuck am I talking about?
Yeah, that's right. It happens, right? It just happens when. They do not work list, and I was, there were times where I've said to myself, like some of these people are absolutely insane. Like there was this, and it capped off in 2010. I worked with 2 people when I was doing a TV pilot that I ended up pitching to a couple networks, and there was me and this one guy did not get along at all, and everyone asked why I didn't fire him, and unfortunately the whole story is so deep that I couldn't just fire him. And it was just he and I, as soon as it ended, it was just this protracted argument, email back and forth, and it was just eventually we each got our own lawyer, and it was just it was like bad. Like it was one of those times that you hear about where you're like, Jesus, I hope that never happens to me. And eventually that just so now like he and I, if we are in a room of just he and I, we will not say a word to one another.
Yeah, I bet. No, I think it's. I've never. That's the thing. I think the worst there been is like minor irritations. I don't think there's, and everything we do. The budgets are so small that there's no point in getting the law involved. We're just going to fucking drain each other's money.
That's exactly what happened to us.
It's well, that's the thing. We were talking about distributors and stuff, and I think that when a distributor isn't looking after you the way that they're contractually obligated to, they're usually in a position where if you do want to sort of like save up your money and then deal with it legally, the procedure on the lawyers on their part is just to string it out as long as they can until you can't afford to keep going. And unless you have the type of sort of lawyer who you see in films who will say, "I will fight this until we win," which doesn't really happen because it would be crazy for anyone to do that. It's you just end up spending your money and having very little at the end of it. So it's I think the trick is when it comes to distribution, at least, make sure all the you cross the T's and dot the I's and all that stuff is exactly where it needs to be ahead of time. But even then, you'll probably still make mistakes. I think that's why my advice to most young filmmakers is to make a film, make a feature film, get a film out there, because it's not just the making of the film that you need to understand. It's the whole process of attaining distribution. I mean, we're in a position right now where, we could just make a movie. I could make a movie today. I could make a few phone calls, and we could be shooting a film, say, Wednesday, with great equipment. It would look very cinematic. But at the end of that, we've got to think responsibly about distribution. How is this film going to get out there? And so there depending on what you are happy with, if you're happy just to make a movie and then just pop it on YouTube, then you can do that now. That's a perfectly viable means of getting the film out there. But it's but where we are, I kind of feel I have a lot more responsibility for the people who would give up their time, and we need to find a way to make this at least cover the expenses of paying everyone who works for us. So it's something that is always at the front of my mind. So I'm on the prowl for budgets right now. But that's kind of currently where I am. I'm in this sort of situation where I've got a really great team, and I feel very responsible for them, and so I'm trying to get decent enough budget so we can these guys can take like a month or so off work and can get paid, and then they can slip right back into their lives when we're done. I don't think making films is hard. I just think that it's there's a way of doing it that should be somewhat responsible to the people that are giving you time. You need to at the very least finish the film you're working on. That's a thing that happens a lot more than I was aware of. That people don't finish the films. I don't know like for you, Dave, but like for me, there's like I don't think of myself as as a horrifically egotistical like asshole, but there is an egotistical part of me that really enjoys watching. There's so many different phases of making a film that I enjoy. Writing is quite isolated, so I enjoy that for, it's not the thing I enjoy the most, but it is something I kind of enjoy. The shoot I absolutely adore. I love shooting. Editing, I enjoy seeing all those things come together, but what gets me through editing is this little egotistical thing of watching a room full of people react to all these little cuts and the story sort of working visually, and especially if they're laughing and if they're crying or if you hear an intake of breath because they're shocked. They are all, that entire room of people, even if that's the only audience we ever get, are completely believing the lie I'm telling them, because none of it is real. Not even the time that they're watching the film is real, because in the time it takes for me to cut from a close-up of one actor to another, an hour has passed. You know what I mean? So it's not. Everything is a lie. And so if the audience can buy into that lie and get emotionally engaged, that is so exciting for me. And I think that's what gets me to that end point. It's like that thirst to see the audience. And it only happens for about maybe 2 or 3 screenings. After that, I find watching a film is an incredibly traumatic experience where every time they don't react is just horrible. But or if the reaction isn't the same as a previous screening, it's horrible. So it can only survive for about 2 or 3 screenings. But it's something I live for. I really get excited by it. And is it the same for you with the stuff you make?
In a way, yes. I'm starting to get that feeling back because by the end of 2011, it was like the I fucking hate my life type deal because it was just like grind to get anything done. Like the problem was the simple stuff was like taking forever. And I'm like, guys, we should be like so farther ahead here. And then there was it wasn't between me and anybody on the last real quote unquote film project I did. Yeah. It was somebody else, and then I got brought into the mix of it. Like, whoa, what, I'm just I don't know how I got involved in this, but and that sort of burned me out. Right now, I've actually been focusing a lot on just writing for the past couple of years, taking writing courses and stuff like that, and I really feel I'm like a lot better writer now, and I've made so many connections over these years. Like it's a question I want to actually ask you is, would you ever consider crowdfunding via Kickstarter, Indiegogo for your next project?
I was encouraged to do it for what I thought would be my second feature, and I didn't really enjoy the process too much. It's brilliant. I think crowdsourcing is absolutely incredible, and I've seen it work, and I've seen it. It's a wonderful thing. But for me, like my worry is I'm taking the money off the people who would then end up working on it that would end up paying. So it's kind of their money they're putting in, and then they get paid, and it's like, well, okay. I don't know. It doesn't. The type of budgets I'm trying to go for anyway, I don't think crowdsourcing is the best way to go about it. I don't think it would be that effective, and I'm not very good at it either. I'm not very good at saying, "Hey, everyone, chuck some money into this. It's just a tenner; it'll go a long way." I'm really not good at that. So I think the way we've been looking for budgets to go elsewhere, to go to other places, to go to financiers. There's some great tax breaks in the UK. So I've got a really excellent producer. His name's Dave Wade. He's working on the Colin sequel with me. he's really looking into those avenues, and we're even like exploring like what Bob Tappert and Sam Raimi did for the Evil Dead films, just going knocking on doors and of rich dentists and saying, hey, you guys probably don't know anything about filmmaking and tax breaks that are offered through that. This is an incentive. Why don't you and your dentist buddies and your doctor buddies and your surgeon buddies get together, throw in some money, and then we get this much, we'll make a movie, and you'll either see some money from it, but at the very least you'll have a great tax break. So it's the sort of thing that the way. So he's really on the case of that. What I've got to do at the moment is get the script into a readable space, because the script is currently quite long. Because we're trying to tell an awful lot in there. It's been a while since the last feature I did was Magpie, which is a film that was shot in about 2011, and then there's a long time editing it, then a long time trying to get it distributed. It's been distributed this year, last year in the US, this year in the UK. So, and it's a small film. I'd be amazed if anyone watches it, and it'll probably die a little lonely death. The best thing I can hope for is to get more films made that people will sort of want to check out the back catalogue and then maybe take a look at that little movie, because it's a nice little film. But so there's, I think, shit, man, I lost my train of thought now.
We were talking about funding for films.
Oh, that's right, yeah, funding. And I think that, I again, it's all to do with that responsibility that I think it'd be, I 100% support crowdsourcing. I just don't think it's good for me in the budgets I want to try and get at the moment to be able to pay everyone. So it's not something that necessarily would work for me. Although we did look at doing it as a marketing budget, but I figured that if I can keep the budget of the film low enough, what's left over can be our marketing budget, if that makes any sense. So I'm always trying to find a way to sort of shift money around, try and make it work. And in the case of the Collins sequel, we actually have a certain amount of money set aside strictly to market, possibly distribute ourselves as well. Because self-distribution, that's the beast that all independent filmmakers need to tame, because we're currently at the mercy of some very cowardly distributors who don't want to touch a film unless a recognizable name is in it. And there are a lot of very interesting films that I, as an audience, am being denied because distributors don't see a market value in it. And that doesn't seem right to me in this day and age where, a film can just be uploaded to YouTube. But if the filmmakers do that, they cut out their ability to have their film distributed anywhere across the world. So quite rightly, a filmmaker isn't going to make that choice. So it's a tough. I think once filmmakers figure out how easy the distribution thing is, we'll be distributing our own movies and we'll be in a really good spot. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense, Mark. I tell you what, after we're done this podcast, if you ever want to bounce ideas off of me for funding or anything, please feel free. Because I've actually helped out a lot of filmmakers with their crowdfunding campaigns. Sometimes they're generous enough to say, "Hey, thank you, Dave," and other times they're like, "Fuck this guy. What did he do for us? He just put this whole campaign together and then nothing." And believe me, when that happened, I do have to say something, because they wouldn't even give me a thank you credit on the fucking movie. I'm like, okay.
No. We have absolutely no problem thanking people for their work. I don't understand why anyone wouldn't. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It's the capitalistic way. No, I'm just making a joke, but
hey man, I'm British. We say sorry for shit we didn't even fucking do. And do it all the time.
And welcome to America.
Assholes my way. And to make him move, I say, sorry. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and in America, we're just eating. It's like a dog-eat-dog mentality. No, I'm just making a fun joke, But
you know what, man? When I was in the US, I fucking love American cities. I haven't been to many small sort of places in America, but American cities are just the best places. I've whenever been, I love New York, I love Chicago. I was in Dubuque in Iowa, a sort of a small city, but what an amazing little city. It is actually, it's sort of in the middle of nowhere on the Mississippi in a strange way, but it looks like a set, there's these huge buildings and then there's not, a series, there's just one road. It's just the most amazing. It was such a lovely place. And I stayed in a hotel that Al Capone used to stay in when he was on his way between Chicago and somewhere else that I forget. But just American cities are the best. I just absolutely love them. I've never been to Philadelphia, but hey, I love Rocky, so we're in. Hey, I saw the trailer for Creed the other day. Had no idea they were making that.
Yeah,
it just popped up on Facebook. I was like, what? There's another Rocky movie?
Yeah,
All right. I'm in.
Sylvester Stallone had to fight tooth and nail to get to film here. I mean, he literally had to say, if you don't film it here, I'm not a part of it. And then that sort of ends the argument, because how are you going to have a Rocky movie without Stallone?
Exactly, yeah.
But because the whole Philadelphia film industry, if you're going to film in Pennsylvania, you're going to go to Pittsburgh. Bar none, everyone films in Pittsburgh. There's a whole plethora of reasons why. That's another reason too. Since 2010, 11, the films that have been shot in this area have gone down dramatically. I mean, it's not even by half. I'm talking by like 90%.
Wow. Didn't M. Night Shyamalan always shoot all his stuff in Philadelphia as well?
Yep, used to. Now that's gone too. So, he shot his last movie in Toronto, I think. But so we've been taking a beating for the past couple of times. That's why I want to shoot. The next thing I want to shoot would be something small that I could crowdfund something small for. And that's why I use Colin as inspiration, something that's not – I don't need 10,000 explosions, and I don't need, because those explosions add up. But, stuff like that. And, and it's funny because where I live, right up the street from me, is where General Cornwallis actually stayed during the American Revolution.
Wow.
and it actually the hotel that he stayed at actually burned down in like the 1980s, but they have like a monument now, and then and now they have, well, it wasn't a monument, I shouldn't say that. It was more like a plaque, and now they're actually going to take out that entire area of land where all that stuff happened, because they're redoing because I live right on the outskirts of Philly, and they're taking that all out to redo my whole area here to make a roundabout. So that's all going to go away soon. But it's pretty cool though, and speaking 4th of July.
Yeah. It's there's never a better time to make a film. Like the accessibility of the cameras and the technology is never going to be a better time. Like even if you don't own the cameras yourself, you can find someone who. I mean, we shot a music video recently, and is my first music video, and I'll ping you the link after so you can have a look at it. But we shot using 3 different types of cameras, and when we graded them all together, I mean, I think they all look. They seem to me to look all like they match. I mean, there's obviously like flaws with each camera. If you got someone who's good at grading, it brings the whole thing to life. And we sat down and did this thing in like a day. Like we shot one evening, and then we shot the afternoon the next day, and that was it. And that was a music video. And I'm really happy with how it looks. And all these different cameras all mixed together. We were shooting off the cuff and saying, well, let's just try this now. Let's just try this now. And it's a music video that I think, if anything, it just cost the amount of money for us to go from one part of the UK to the other. And I dragged everyone to where my parents are, because I knew that we'd have a place to stay, and it wouldn't cost anything. And my parents love it when I bring film people down, especially actresses. I think my mum, has just had 2 sons, me and my brother, and I think that like whenever we have girlfriends, she gets really excited, and I realized really quickly that it has nothing to do with girlfriends. Just whenever there's a woman in the house, she's like, "Oh, great!" And my mum just sort of like suddenly bonds with the females that she was deprived of growing up in a house with 3 men, my dad included. So it's always really sweet. But I love sort of taking people back to Wales and shooting movies. But but technology-wise, I mean, there's so much out there. Was it the Sony A7S we were playing with recently? That's a great camera. Even when you're not shooting 4K, it still looks beautiful. So there's so much you can do. And I hear so many excuses and reasons not to make films. And you know what? Most of those arguments come from techie people, not creative people. And the techie people are right with everything they're saying about technologically what's possible and what's not. The thing about film people is that the creative people is that, the worst thing is when they listen, they don't make a film. And when they ignore them and say, fuck these guys, I'm just going to give this a go. It looks better than a camcorder, which is basically all I look for. Because I grew up shooting stuff on camcorders. It looks better than a camcorder, it'll do. And we'll just find a way to tell the story so that people aren't looking at the cameras we use to make the story, to shoot the story. They're getting engaged with the characters who definitely don't exist, that we're making up to tell the story. So, that's the thing that I always sort of look for. So, man, you should definitely definitely make a movie. I'll ping you a link as well to this ridiculous film I did with a bunch of friends of mine who were going through a similar thing. They all felt like, okay, what's the point of making a film? It's so impossible to get one out there. And I said, well, look, let's just at least learn how to make a film. So we got together, and in 10 days we shot an action feature called Way of the Monkey's Claw, which is about a gang of ninjas that attack a pub in Tooting. So it is a ridiculously silly film where we all did stuff we'd never done before. Lots of us co-directed different scenes, but we had a very clear structure for the story and the characters that would push the story forward. And then as we were improvising bits here and there, people that would come down just to be extras for a day, I was like, you're fucking wicked. When do you need to not come anymore? And they said, well, I'm here until Wednesday. Great, you're a main character till Wednesday. We'll kill you off Wednesday. You won't be in the film after that point. So that's what we would do. And the film worked out really well. I mean, we've screened that that's screened at a couple of cinemas in the UK here, and the response has been absolutely amazing. And our initial reaction was, oh, this is because, maybe people know people who are in the film here. There's probably people in the audience who just know other people and stuff. But there's one character in it, and he's played by a lovely actor called Alan Booty. And no one really knows Alan. I know Alan because of a couple of other films he made with some young filmmakers I know. So there was a screening of the BFI. It was a great screening. We'd managed to sell out. And Alan's two nephews and his, I think, brother was there. And so they were watching the film, and I could see where they were. And I was kind of a bit aware of them, and I wanted to make sure that they were comfortable because, everyone was being quite loud and enjoying the film. And there's a point where his character does something in the film, and it sort of saves the day a little bit. And the audience erupted into cheers, and my eyes were on these guys the whole time, and they didn't start that. They thrust their fists in the air with excitement when it got that cheer because it was their relative, but it got this huge reaction. I thought, well, you know what? No one knows that actor out of this crowd. No one here knows him. This is a sign that the film is working. If everyone can go that crazy, because British audiences are quite quiet. I know the American audiences are very responsive and reactive to the film. They're not like that here. People will laugh, and that's about it. But or if something like bad happens, you'll hear people go, ooh, that's about it. But yeah, this got like such a great reaction. I was just like, holy shit, no one here knows Alan. This is the character working. And that's happened at every screening we've had for it so far. So really, really great feeling. And I'm really glad it worked like that for that screening where his family were in to watch it, because that's, he couldn't make it, unfortunately, but I just love the idea of the phone call to him saying, oh, you should have heard them all cheering when you did your thing. And I had a lovely voicemail off him telling me how his family felt about it, because I didn't see them after the film was finished. But it just, things like that are just so damn cool. I don't know how I got onto this. This is definitely a waffle. I'm sorry. But like things like that, I just love about filmmaking. You know what I mean? It's definitely worth doing. I'll have to send you that film because it's rough as hell around the edges. But it's kind of fun for what it was. It's just a bunch of us getting together, fucking around, and having a really good time. We shot it in 10 days, edited it in, I think, 14 days, maybe 12 days. There was a lot of footage. Every time someone came down, I said, here's a camera. I'm the main camera for this shot. He's the B camera for this shot. Stick the camera wherever you want, get whatever shots you want. Be creative. You can't possibly fuck it up because we're getting all the shots. And when we're happy, we're moving on. If you got it, great. If you didn't, don't worry about it. We'll use something that you get on the next bit. So there was no pressure on anyone. And although it's a bit of a mess, structurally it's fine, and we all got to try different things. I got to act. I'm a terrible actor, but I was encouraged to act in it. So I put a bag on my head, and you got a great performance out of me with a bag on my head. When you can't see my face, I'm fine. When you can see my face, I'm the worst actor on the planet.
I had Sean Baker on the podcast, and Sean actually just shot a film that got into Sundance and was picked up for distribution, and he shot it with his iPhone 5.
I heard about that. Yes, that's wicked. That's absolutely amazing. There's another really great example of how this also, how you can just, there's no limits really these days, is there? It's all about telling a story. All about telling a story.
Yeah, very true. It's funny enough, IndieWire, I think either they or somebody else close to them retweeted the link to the podcast. He now, just since last week, has become my most popular episode. Before that, it was the guy who runs Stage32.com, Richard Botto.
Oh, sweet.
I don't know if you're on Stage 32, but that's like a filmmaking site that has become pretty popular. But he used to be, he was the most popular. Now Sean is by like a large margin. It's unbelievable. It just goes to show you how when you start getting that the connectivity of, and the synergy flowing, and all of a sudden. But Sean's film. I honestly, it is. I'll link to it in the show notes as well. But it's been getting great reviews, and people like he told me in the interview. I asked him. I said, "What did everyone say? The actors, especially when you showed up and said we're going to shoot this on an iPhone." And he said, "I had to talk to him. We actually had to sit down with them, and we talked over beforehand." And he's like, listen, this isn't going to be. I know you're going to think this is crazy, but here's a reason we're going to shoot it on an iPhone, and it's not going to look like crap. I promise you." And
there's amazing. What the hell? Those sticks that you can get Steadicam shots off.
Mm-hmm.
Those I was tempted to shoot a scene. I'm tempted to shoot a scene for the Colin sequel with one of those, just because this is like the biggest scene of the whole film as well. We've got fucking tanks and extras and explosions, all sorts of shit going on, and I'm just like, yeah, but we're gonna shoot with these things because I've used the Ronin. I find it a fucking nightmare, and I'm thinking one of these little things. I just played with one. I had a little play with it. I was like, you know what, this is great. Let's just use one of these. So it's validating when someone else sort of treads lays down the tracks for you to sort of like comfortably follow afterwards. So
yeah, and it's we were talking before too, because there was a Korean director who made I forget the name of the movie, and I'll put a link in the show notes. And he shot his just with the iPhone 3 or 4, and he had the special lenses for his. And I think it's called Night Fishing, and it was unbelievable how he did it. And it's on YouTube for free too. But I'll make sure to link to that in the show notes. And and I agree with you, Mark. There's another guy who I've had on, Jason Brubaker, and he actually wrote an article that was so true, because he said filmmakers now, instead of making movies, they're obsessing over packages. Like they research all these cameras, like, should I use the Red Dragon or should I use the Canon 5D Mark III? And should I use this Zeiss lens or should I use this tripod? And he said instead of actually making movies, they're just spending all this time researching this gear packages.
Yeah. Ironically, no one's researching writing, which is the part everyone needs to fucking get on top of.
Just me. I've been the past couple of years, right? Just me. I've been, trying to figure out the past couple of years, make myself a better writer. And that's funny you mentioned that too, because whenever I see a crowdfunding campaign for a movie, it always bothers me and it sets up a red flag when they never talk about the script. They never talk about development, like, hey, we created it and we've had, maybe even if they were to say like, hey, listen, we had a consultant come on here and this consultant was well known and he likes it and he gives it a green light, or something like that. It's just always like, well, it's a story about A and B, and they then never talk about how much time, to make sure it was a viable script. They never talk about that, and it always sort of sets up a red flag to me.
Yeah, I think I did a presentation pitch for something. Incidentally, I am not going to be a huge draw for anyone on your podcast, sadly. I'll tweet like crazy, but I'll probably I'm not much of a draw, I don't think, I'm afraid. I'll try my best to get a career, Dave, and then it's going to be great. And then 6 people will listen to this one, and you'll be set.
Well,
yes.
Well, the average listen base I have is actually a couple of hundred per episode. So you're guaranteed at least probably 300 based off my audience alone.
All right. See, that's cool, because then maybe I can gauge how much of an asshole your listeners think I am by the lack of followers I get afterwards. I promise I'll try to tweet something better. But no, it's but yeah, I think. Sorry, man, I lost my track now. Where were we talking about? We were talking about writing. Yeah, I was going to say one of the best books I've read on writing is Stephen King's On Writing. It just deals with like efficiency and structure, and at the same time is a really interesting little biography of Stephen King and how he recovered from his accident when he was hit by the car. And what he goes into in terms of just efficiently writing, even though he's sort of exposing some things he did in some of his earlier books that he sort of kind of regrets. It's kind of amazing just to see that someone would give up so much information. And it's because a lot of people don't. A lot of people are very guarded about what they do in film and TV, and even though Stephen King is obviously a novelist, he's like, this is how I do my thing, and like it or not, this is how I do it, and this is the way I go about doing it. And if you want to do it, well, I hope this helps you find something that works for you. It's one of the best books on how to structure a story, and I've read. I mean, obviously Sid Field's stuff is really good as well, even though I don't tend to listen to the advice that Sid Field's got. It's because I took that all in. I went, okay, well, now I want to do something a bit different. So knowing the rules and the expectations of audiences, it's nice to sort of try and subvert them in another way and try and find a way to do that. District 9 did that perfectly. It's a by numbers hero's journey. It's just handled with a degree of maturity that makes the film actually not necessarily as broadly accessible as a film, say, like Avatar, which is designed to be as accessible as possible. And I like both movies, by the way. But I think with District 9, it's just done in a really interesting way where, you get 3 endings, and it's up to you as an audience to decide what that ending is. So most people have seen District 9, so I am going to sort of spoil it a little bit, but you get to decide whether, the alien comes back with an invasion force, whether the alien comes back to fix Wickus, or whether the alien doesn't come back at all. And I was like, that's a perfect ending, because in my mind, the most sensible solution to that story is that it doesn't come back at all. It's, all Christopher wanted to do was save his kid. But others think that there's going to be an alien invasion sequel, and, others think more optimistically he's going to come back and fix Wickus. It doesn't matter. The movie ends. That's perfect. I like that sort of maturity of storytelling whilst at the same time following the beats that Sid Field lays out in his sort of like paradigm structure. But yeah, I think script writing, that's a really important thing. And I think that it's not just about writing what you feel. I mean, I know one writer, and she said to me that what she likes to do sometimes is lay everything down on cards and then just mix them all up and see how it looks. And I think I nearly vomited. I was like, what? How useless is your structure if you can do that? That doesn't make any sense to me. But everyone's got their methods. There's no, it's filmmaking, it's storytelling. There's no right or wrong way to do it. If you're a writer and you do something that works for you, odds are there are people out there who'd like to see stories told that way. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes absolute sense. It really does. And there was a webinar I took recently, and it was about, just finding your own voice as a writer. And, that's one of the things he emphasized on. And I mean, just in talking before with other filmmakers, if you gave Tarantino, Kevin Smith, and Steven Spielberg the same exact premise, you would come away with three completely different movies. Sorry.
Yeah. No. Spielberg suggested that, actually. I think when Woody Allen was trying to do New York stories, he said, Woody Allen was like, hey, come up with a New York story, a story set in New York, and then you'll make one short, and Scorsese's going to do one, I'm going to do one. And so, but Spielberg actually said, no, I got a better idea. How about if we all do the same story, and then we'll see how different all of those work out? And then Spielberg said that Woody Allen never called him back after that, so he said he guessed he didn't like that idea. But I think that would have been quite an interesting experiment, to see a Spielberg take on a story and a Scorsese take and a Woody Allen take. Like that's because that's big. Was it the Red Letter Media guys pointed out that that's what the Alien movies are? It's the same story, just told from the perspective of different directors' personalities. And that's probably the best way of hearing the Alien films described. The Aliens is how James Cameron would do Alien. Alien is how Ridley Scott would do Alien. And Alien 3 is how Fincher would do Alien. So it's, I was like, yes, that's a pretty accurate thing. And as much as David Fincher doesn't like Alien 3, I personally really love Alien 3. You can see his grim sort of stamp and his humor in all of it, I think. So yeah, and that's very true. And I don't know if it was Red Letter Media guys, but
It's funny. I actually have a friend who the first Alien movie he ever saw was Alien 3. Then he saw Alien 4, and then he went back and saw Alien 1 and 2, and then he saw Prometheus. And he saw Prometheus last, which is what you should do.
Yeah.
But I'm one of the rare guys. I actually liked Prometheus a lot, and I think it's just because I'm a sap for well-told science fiction. And what I mean by that is it challenges you with bigger ideas than what it fulfills. Going into Prometheus, I knew that's what it was going to be, and not because I read any reviews or anything like that. It's just because I just had a feeling that they were just going to set it up like this. Like, these engineers created the human race, we did something bad, and they wanted to destroy us. Sorry if you didn't see Prometheus. I didn't really give away.
No, I've seen it. Yeah.
But it's like that, and when at the end there's a lot of unsolved questions, and a lot of people were like, what the hell, they should have solved this, solved that, blah blah blah. I kind of expected that, and now when they announced Prometheus 2, they're going to answer a lot of those questions most likely, and probably give us a whole bunch more, because there's a saying, really good answers lead to really good questions, lead to more, because a really good question leads to a really good answer, which lead to even better questions. And that's sort of what I feel in the whole Alien universe, is about where these aliens came from, who the hell are these engineers. Because remember in Alien, the original, they found a space jockey and his chest had been busted open.
Yeah.
And they thought that was going to be LV-1134.
426.
426, yeah. And in the whole thing, and so again, I'm in that very slim people that apparently like Prometheus, but I'm
not. That's the thing with Prometheus. I'm not bored watching Prometheus. I can say that I'm definitely not bored, which is fine. Yeah, but there's lots of it does make sense. It's got great performances in it as well. I think if it had nothing to do with Alien, I think it would be perfectly fine. I think that I'm not really fond of prequels. I've never really liked them. I can't think of a single prequel. Oh, actually, I did. There was one that came up. A single prequel that actually adds anything to the original film in a way that I personally find satisfying. And I sort of always challenge my film students and say, just name one prequel, and not that it's entertaining or anything like that. It needs to add more. In the same way as Aliens, you got to understand a lot more about the alien life cycle, and it developed and grew, and then there's this whole theme of motherhood and all that great stuff in Aliens. It's like, show me a prequel that does that, and we haven't come up with anything. The closest thing to a prequel that we could argue is truly great is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. That's the only prequel I can think of that I was like, nope, I fucking love that. There's nothing wrong with it. The only minor sort of like hole in it is that Indiana Jones seems to be quite skeptical of magical artifacts and all that sort of stuff in Raiders. Yet he went through all that stuff with the magical glowing stones in Temple of Doom. But he drank blood. Maybe he was hungover and he forgot stuff. I don't know. It happens. But I don't hate Prometheus. It's like I'm not bored by it. It's just that I think it does a thing where it's like, oh, this is a modern film now, so we have to have all this technology, and I don't think it's necessary. So those, but they do explain that away in Prometheus. The last time I watched it, they said, we have a state-of-the-art technology that no one will have for decades or something like that. So that's why they have those mapping balls, and the Marines don't have them in Aliens. That's why I guess Michael Fassbender can learn how to fly a spaceship and speak to aliens, whereas Ash from Alien can't, because they weren't necessarily expecting to go and find the derelict spaceship. Yeah. So there's it's kind of covered in a weird way. Even the thing about why that guy would go up to a vagina snake and try, stroking it. It's like, true, he probably likes vaginas, which is fine. But it's probably more to do with the fact that, like, in the script, which I read as well, that guy expresses a love of snakes.
Yes.
So that's why he goes up to it. And I don't think that's not in the film. I don't think that's a really good way to fill that hole in, by the way, because it's not a snake. It's a fucking alien on another planet. Like, it just has snake-like qualities. apologies. But it's like these things don't generally bother me. The performances in the film are fucking great. It's like I think Mad Max is getting a lot of praise for like strong female characters. I think Prometheus has really strong female characters in pretty much the same way. So it's just interesting that like some films get favored over others. And I was like, oh well, like was it when everyone was saying about The Artist and the dog should win an Oscar for The Artist? I was there like I say, fuck off. The dog in I Am Legend, regardless of what you feel about that film, was fucking amazing. So if we're going to start talking about giving animals Oscars, let's look at the Alsatian from I Am Legend, because that dog was fucking wicked. One of the best movie dogs ever. So that's just me.
Yeah, I actually went back and I read a lot about Prometheus, like about the scripts and what Damon Lindelof changed, and I actually have a draft prior to him changing anything.
Oh, the other guy. Yeah, I'd love to read that. If I can nab that off you, if you can email that to me, it'd be amazing.
Oh, absolutely, sure. It answers a lot of other questions too about like how come this and how come that, and you're like, oh wow, that's why Mr. Whalen had to pretend to be dead. That's why. Yeah. Okay, now I get that, and this is why this happens. This is why they have advanced technology, and so now it all is making sense, and there's a lot more mystery and more of everyone's kept in the dark. In like basically we see it through Numi Rapace's character of Shaw, and we're so lost because she's lost basically, and I guess maybe I can appreciate a lot more because of that. I mean, like I said, I'm a sucker for these big idea movies, and But yeah, I mean, I just hope Ridley Scott, I hope they do use a lot of his, because Prometheus 2, whatever it's going to be called, I know he's not directing it, but I hope at least some of his input gets used correctly, so that way it's we can actually, because I'm assuming they're just going to make a third one too. I'm assuming it's going to be its own trilogy.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing where I think like Damon Lindelof sort of like maybe where he isn't as strong in his writing is in answering the really interesting, amazing questions he raises in his first two acts. Like Lost I fucking loved Lost. I got through so much, and people gave up because they didn't have any answers. I was like, so what? This is so interesting. And you just get more and more. And when those questions started to be answered, I didn't find it as interesting. I honestly found it much more exciting to have more questions, like why is this now and why that? Oh, that is this, but now that leads to this question. So when it started wrapping itself up, I think that's when it started to get a little unsatisfying to me. But that's, what is that? That's like a couple hours worth of television compared to the many, many, many hours of amazing questions. And I was like, I know it's a J.J. Abrams thing as well. I mean, I know that his structures are generally around, he's done talks on it several times. He's talked about what's in this box, and there's this whole thing about the mystery is actually more engaging than the answers, and so he bases everything around that. And I think that's why I've enjoyed writing television, trying to develop television series so much that you don't need an ending, so you can just set up all these really great questions. You don't need to deal with them until a few years into it, and by then you're bound to have come up with something interesting, or at least something that starts a conversation. So yeah, it's but that's I think that I didn't realize Prometheus wasn't going to be a standalone film. Only when it ended did I go, oh, okay, we're gonna have there's gonna be more of these. All right, fair enough. And I was like, I was a bit like, I'm not too keen on that. I mean, I don't like this notion. What was it? This. Now we're into 3 Terminator movies where they try setting up another series of films. Like they tried it with Terminator 3. They certainly tried it with Terminator Salvation. And as much as, the new Terminator movies come out, I'm not going to spoil it in case no one's seen it yet. But it's but they're trying to clearly set up a new string of stories. So there are a few things that, like, only when I came home and I started thinking, I was like, wait a minute, what the fuck? What's happening here now? I was like, oh, they didn't answer it. They're planning to make more. And I think I heard, has it done all right? Do you know how it's done in terms of box office sales? I think Magic Mike 2 beat it out in the US, didn't it? Yeah,
not too well. This 4th of July weekend belonged to Jurassic Park again.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there we go. So we're going to have yet another Terminator movie that promises more sequels that won't come. Like, none of James Cameron's ones did that. They were like, hey, it's over now. Happy endings for everyone. It's like, all right. And all these new ones keep setting up sequels that just, so we're left hanging with lots of answers. But that said, no one seems to really like the other Terminator movies, so no one really gives a fuck about where those answers are anyway. But you know, it's nice to have a complete film once in a while, you know, instead of everyone trying to set up a new franchise.
Well, whenever James Cameron talks about Terminator, it always is like, wow, this is an awesome idea, or wow, this is really great. And then whenever anybody else talks about it, it's like, oh, that's what you're going to do? I mean, it's a shame, you know, they could have just left it at 1 and 2, or just let Cameron do a third one whenever he could.
You know what? This is the reason I'm not going to get any followers from this podcast. Is that I kind of watched it the other day. I was like, oh, I kind of quite enjoyed the first half of it. I thought, I was like, oh, that's because I'm not fond of references, like constant referencing to other films. It's just so tiresome. Like Star Trek Into Darkness was just loaded with it, and I was just like, fuck off, guys! Just tell your own movie, tell your own story. You did it with the last Star Trek film, and you kind of changed the face of sci-fi. Now everyone's throwing lens flares left, right, and center. Like, you have a voice of your own. Tell a story, and the second one was just a sort of remake of the first one, which I enjoyed, but it was just kind of like, oh, I kind of saw this already, you know, and now it's just loads of Wrath of Khan references, and I was like, oh god, I just found it quite tiresome. But with the new Terminator movie, they sort of, and I thought Jurassic World did that loads as well, but with the new Terminator movie, I kind of felt that they incorporated them into the story quite well. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, and that's pretty cool, that's interesting, and I was kind of all right with it, you know. It's me. I didn't hate it, didn't hate it, which I kind of was fully expected to do, because the ticket price was so goddamn expensive. And I thought, why am I paying this much money to go see a film I'm probably not going to like? So it was quite a surprise that I came out like not. You know, I came out quite satisfied going, oh, that was all right. Yeah. Have you seen it yet?
I have not. I'm kind of behind lately on my going to the theater. I haven't seen Inside Out. I haven't seen Jurassic World. I haven't seen the new Terminator. I did see Fast 7, but I did actually retweet your tweet about the ticket prices, and you bought. And
oh, yes. There's a lot of cheese on those nachos, but that came with it. It was large. They just put that down. That didn't affect fucking 15 quid. Jesus. It's a lot of money to see a film in 3D that wasn't even great 3D. But, yeah.
And it's, you know, whenever I go to the theater now, even me, I'm always... I don't go often as I used to. Honestly, same day VOD is like some of the smaller movies are doing that, and now it's sort of spoiling me. And I think eventually that's going to be the new norm. So if you want to, like, you know, hey, whatever's coming out, and by the way, it's same day as theater on VOD or whatever. It's just a lot of the theaters around me I don't like, and I want to go to the really nice theater, and it's so far away, and it's a pain in my ass to get there. And well, it's like 45 minutes, not that far away. But I go to a place called Movie Tavern, which is starting to, like, all of the independents are springing up throughout America. There's like, you know, there's the one in Austin, I can't remember the name of it, and then there's Movie Tavern, and then there's a couple of ones here and there. But basically, they're trying to do a lot more to get people into theaters, and it's working, because I love Movie Tavern more than like an AMC or a Regal or whatever else.
You know what, though? If I had the choice, I'd do the same, because the sound system I've got at home is much better than the sound system in most of the cinemas. The presentation's better. Guaranteed there's not going to be some dickhead behind me talking. And the only thing I lose out on, I have this like junkie-like addiction to Odeon nachos with their cheese. That's it. That's the thing I'll that's the only sacrifice I'll make. I'll be making to watch. So a VOD release, I'd opt for that as well. This is the thing, because this is a problem with this happened with CDs, because, you know, I'm old enough to remember CDs. When CDs got so expensive, Napster came along and people just started downloading, and people realized they didn't need to spend ridiculous amounts of money on an album just for 2 or 3 songs. People just go, hey, you know what? I'll just download those 2 or 3 songs. So it's this changed everything. The price of CDs in the UK dropped to like about $8 for a while. They're about £8 or £9, and now you download them for even less, or something who's average about £10 for an album now. So it forces the industry to lose more money in the long run because people are not going to the cinema now. And someone's a friend of Alistair Curtin's actually said that this is how they should do ticket pricing. If it's an independent film or a small film on limited release, the ticket price should reflect that. So we should be talking about maybe $6.50 off peak to go and see a film that's like an independent film, like It Follows or something, or The Babadook, or a European film. That should be about $6.50 because those aren't films like Jurassic World, which, okay, fair enough, maybe charge $11.50 for that one because it makes sense if the ticket pricing reflects the type of film you're going to see, and that would encourage people to go and see independent films. Because when it becomes this ordeal where you're sinking £20 into just taking a chance on a film, well, you're not going to take that chance because this sort of like economic climate, people don't have that much disposable income to throw away on a film that they might not like, and it's just causing a problem. There's damage being done to the industry as a result because films that are interesting aren't being seen, and films like Jurassic World, which I have to be honest, despite not minding the Terminator film, I really didn't care for Jurassic World at all. It was nothing but a load of references. And I'm not going to spoil this for you, right? But this is the first alarm bells I had watching this movie, right? There's a bit where the Jurassic Park theme starts building, and I'm like, okay, I know this theme, I know where this is going, but we're in a fucking hotel room. I guarantee someone's going to go up to some fucking windows and pull the curtains open or something, and then we're going to see, the music's going to swell, and we better see some fucking dinosaurs. Nope. We see fucking Disneyland, or whatever the fuck it is. The Disneyland reference fucking tower thing they've got. And I was like, why am I watching? Why is the Jurassic Park theme accompanying a bunch of tourists wandering around Disneyland? It's fuck this movie. And it went on like that. And I really didn't care for it too much. There were some bits that were quite cool, but I was just like, fuck this movie. I think I didn't care for it at all. And it baffles me that people hate Jurassic Park 2 and 3, but this one seems to be the one they like. It's like Jaws 3. It's just as dumb. And it's like, and everyone you speak to really likes it. It's like, tell me why you like it. They're kind of like, oh, it's just fun. It's just dinosaurs hitting each other. It's all right. It's all right. I'm like, really? Like, why are you making excuses for it? You liked it. I only asked you to tell me why. It's like everyone seems to be making excuses for it. So I don't know. I'm not. It wasn't for me. That's all.
Well, I'll have to check that out soon enough. I've heard, mixed things, and Fast 7 too. Like I mentioned that, I saw with a bunch of people. They liked it. I was like, sorry, this just didn't do it for me.
Someone told me that it ends like Grease with Paul Walker in a car flying off. Does that really happen? Or is someone fucking with me?
No, that didn't happen. He drove off, but it wasn't like flying. It wasn't like
awful.
Yeah, he didn't fly into the sky or anything.
Imagine, I was like, someone told me that, and I was like, no. But it wasn't just one person, two people. So this is good. So I know like two people were fucking with me. The two separate people told me that, and I went, no, what? Like Grease? It's like, yeah. So there we go. See, I could have watched it, but didn't get a chance to. Okay.
Oh man, but Marc, we would talk almost actually an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, you must have some editing to do. I'm so sorry.
I've been talking your ear off too, and I know you got things to do. So in closing, I always ask my guests this. In closing, is there anything that we talked about today that you wanted to talk about we didn't get to cover, or do you have any closing thoughts, or just anything at all? Anything at all you want to say in closing?
I don't know. I can't think of anything. I mean, I mentioned Colin Sequel a couple of times and suddenly realized that, this is like a friendly conversation, so I haven't really held back on anything. But I forgot we haven't really announced anything about that yet. So there's probably loads we can talk about there. But hey, who knows? If anyone's interested, maybe we'll talk again. Who knows if we can even get it made? Maybe we won't even get it made, and it's just the point is moot just even talking about it. But yeah, that's about the only thing. But no, that's fine. Yeah.
Cool.
Hopefully there'll be more podcasts. I love doing podcasts.
Yeah, and if you ever want to come back, you just let me know, and we'll have you back on. And we'll be talking about Colin too at that point.
Yeah, all right.
And so, where can people find you out online?
I am on Twitter. My Twitter ID is @Marc with a C _V_Price, and Yeah. Is there anything else? Like I don't do my Facebook with as much commitment as I probably should. But Twitter, I'm on that all the time. So that's probably the best way to find me.
Twitter's an amazing networking tool. I actually was. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
No. You go, buddy. I'm the worst. I just keep like, oh, yeah, that's something I'm excited about, and I just keep typing in. So I'm sorry if I fucked up most of the.
No. You're awesome. I didn't want to because this is about you, and I didn't want to take us off on this whole other tangent here because I was about to, and I was like, wait a minute, let me let Mark finish here because I'm going to take us off on this whole tangent about book publishing and everything else. But yeah, I did send you a Facebook friend request, by the way.
Oh, did you really? Yeah.
So feel free to decline that if you want.
No, I wouldn't do that at all. Oh, there you are. Look, right at the top, actually. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. There you go. We're friends now.
Awesome.
I definitely exist. You definitely exist. We're on Facebook. These are things we exist now, sir. Oh, and there you are. Look at your face. There you are.
If you look at the comments on my profile photo, there's a reason why I don't post photos of myself, and it's more like cartoons or whatever else. I've got friends, I've had for years, and they always just tell me how terrible I look, and it's like,
what?
Yeah, seriously, they're always like, oh, that suit looks terrible, that tie, blah, blah. I'm like, Jesus Christ! I mean, who needs enemies? I got you guys. I feel like I should just like put on a mask at the Phantom of the Opera and just like live in the sewers somewhere.
I just like that picture. You're fine. Don't listen to anyone. No, I don't photograph particularly well. It's just bad. It's very bad. I've got a really pretentious picture at the moment where I'm looking confused at some camera rig, which is the thing that like lousy filmmakers do to try and make themselves look like they're working all the time, right? Yeah, we all know.
It's like Dov S.S. Simons always says, get a photo of yourself talking to a group of people pointing at something, and that comes and get yourself on the left of the photo. So when that's used for promotional photos, your name becomes is first in line. Because everything goes left to right, because that's how we read in the Western world. So you're now going to be the first thing that comes up, and it also looks like you're ordering, like, oh, this is in the grand scheme of things. Maybe that's a genius piece of advice. I'm not sure.
Yes. I'll try it. I'll probably fuck up my left and right, and I'll be on the wrong side. It's like, we can't use this guy. He's on the wrong side. Get him out of there. No one wants to publish pictures of me anyway. I'm not very photogenic.
Neither am I. That's why everything is like a cartoon of me. But yeah, so you'd be on the left, pointing to your left. So in the line of people, you would be on the right, on the furthest to the right, pointing left. So that way, you see what I mean. So that way, you are, when the camera's looking, it'd be on the camera's left. That way, if any filmmaker out there listening to this, and hopefully it's Dov S.S. Simons told me about that, and hopefully that gets somebody a light bulb goes off in someone's head, and they can have a big fight now who's going to be on the absolute right.
Yeah, I don't look good flipped either. It's just even worse. So I got to make sure I'm at least on the right side. But I think Elliot Gross has a similar thing in the Rain Dance. Sort of like filmmaker's guide. He did something there that the book we popped in Colin, actually, because it was kind of the Rain Dance ethic we kind of agreed with at the time we were making the film, or just getting out there and making a movie. But yeah, he says a similar thing. Like, if you're ever working with a celebrity, if you're near a celebrity, get a friend to take a picture of you talking to them, looking like you really mean it and pointing. Even though they'll look confused as fuck, it'll be a great promotional picture. I was like, oh, I don't think I want to do that, but it makes sense.
Yeah, I've had Elliot on the show. He is great.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's funny. I've had like other British, like Chris Jones. I've had him on. Do you know Chris Jones?
Yeah, I met Chris a couple of times. I think we've done a couple of podcasts. I think we did one with the BBC, actually.
Cool. I've done. He's been
in his book as well. I'm actually in his book as well. I think somewhere we did an interview, and I'm in one of his books, the Guerrilla Filmmaker's Guide, right?
Oh, cool. I'll have to check that out. It's actually right behind me. There's I have a huge wall behind me of just books and DVDs and Blu-rays and everything else. So, and amongst the bins and stuff, like I mentioned before. yeah, I'll have to look for that. Everyone, you can find me at davebullis.com. Twitter, it's at Dave_Bullis. Facebook, it's Dave at Dave.Bullis. And again, I'll link to all these in the show notes, and I'll be linking more and more to all my social sites, all 10,000 social sites that I'm on, YouTube, all Pinterest. So fun stuff like that. And Marc, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure. It's been awesome talking with you. And, I wish you the best. And again, anytime you want to come back on, you just give me a holler and let me know.
Oh, wicked. Thanks for having me, man. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, anytime, buddy. And, best luck with Colin too, man. And I know we're going to be talking again soon.
Yeah, all the best, man.
All right, cool. Take care, Marc.
Bye.
Bye, buddy.
Find Dave at davebullis.com. Please make sure to subscribe and share the podcast.